that Fonnie Willis personally financially was enriched by virtue of the no-bid contract that she gave to her now admitted paramour. And of course, the allegation was that she was enriched by virtue of receiving these travel benefits and having him pay for all of these things. If those things had been something that can be conclusively proved, not only could Willis be taken off the case due to conflict of interest, this is the kind of thing that can amount to a due process violation, and the conflict of interest could mean that the whole case sinks. However, we've got to remember, there are other claims in the motion to dismiss. There's claims of prosecutorial misconduct related to extrajudicial statements, things that she said out of court over and over again in public that the defense says are designed to belittle and to demean and to cast the other defendants in a bad light and essentially to deny them of a fair trial. So those are all still questions that the judge is going to have to answer and rule on. But the big thing from today, other than the ridiculous claims of cash reimbursement, in my view, was the stunning reveal that witnesses now say that these two were having an affair prior to Fonnie Willis even taking office. If that is the case, that means they have lied to the court, and now we are potentially in disbarment territory, Brett.
Well, it's something to follow. It's been quite something to watch today. Phil, as always, thank you.
You bet.
What you did is that when you signed on in November 1st of 2021,
say that you look through the bank records and you won't see cash deposits, because I have two sources of income, sir. Income comes from my private practice, my firm, and income comes from the contract here with Fulton County. During the course of private practice, occasionally I will have occasion to deposit cash into my account.
and in preparation for this hearing and your testimony, did you go through your bank records to find out if you could locate any cash deposits that would corroborate your testimony?
No, sir. I didn't go through my bank records at all.
Now, so what you would do, the money that you received, of course, the money that you received from your work for Fulton County, that's public funds, correct?
No, sir. It's private funds. It's my
Public funds pay you to do work for Fulton County, correct?
Tell me what the definition of a public fund is.
A public fund would be your funds, as in not fund, but funds, money. Public money, as in money from taxpayers, by the Fulton County or the state of Georgia, pay you to do the work that you're doing here in this case, yes or no?
One or the other, I'm certain.
Do you know which
That's
one?
the case. I don't know which one, no, sir.
Now, you would take those public funds, and those public funds would then use deposit in your account, and they were then used to pay on the credit cards for the trips that you would take with Ms. Willis, correct?
I object to the question insofar as the characterization of public funds. The witness didn't testify to that. I don't believe there's been any evidence to that. Once it's paid to Mr. Wade, it's private funds.
The point of it is that you got money.
Mr. Gillens, rephrasing.
Yeah, all right. let's break it down. You got money from Fulton County for the work that you do here, right?
Yes, sir.
You would send in invoices, and they would pay you money, correct?
Yes, sir.
Those money, that were private money, that money was money from either the citizens of Fulton County or from the state of Georgia, correct? That's what I mean by public funds. Agree?
But I guess I'm having trouble with the notion that the citizens of Fulton County have paid me any funds. I'm not certain the funding source. I can tell you that either the state of Georgia or Fulton County has written me a check.
So that would be, those two entities are public entities, correct?
Yes.
So that would be public funds, right? Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And those public funds are from the same source that you would then use to pay out on your expenses for the trips that you took Miss Willis on, correct?
No, sir. As I testified to moments ago, I have income coming in from my law firm. I also have income coming in from the funds that we're here discussing now from either the state of Georgia or Fulton County. And or both. I'm not certain what it is. So to say
Sorry,
that
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So to say that I'm paying a credit card statement with funds coming from Fulton County or the state of Georgia would not be an accurate statement, because the funds could have very well come from my private practice.
What percentage of your income in 2022 came from money where you were working on this case or from your partners working for the Fulton County office?
In 2022, I would say 50-50.
You think 50-50 in 2022?
Yes, sir.
What about 2023?
Probably 60-40.
60-40.
Yes, sir.
So the money that would be in those accounts, at least 60% of those, in your view, would be public funds, that those monies were then used to pay for the expenses that you had incurred for the trips that you took Miss Willis on, the cruises, the Napa Valleys, the Bahamas, correct? Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now, what you did is that when you signed on in November 1st of 2021, that's when you signed on to be counsel for the anti-corruption matters, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, as you know, in your engagement letter, it doesn't say that you're signing on, and your scope of work is to work on the Trump Special Grand Jury investigation, does it?
No, sir.
It says that you're signing on to work on anti-corruption, the anti-corruption unit matters, correct?
Yes, sir.
Matters with a plural, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in your contract, there is no specific reference to any specific case. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, but you didn't sign on for the duration. There was a period, you have a contract, and then it would then expire, and then you would have a new contract, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, of course, the extension that you received, the first one was in November of 2021, and then you filed, there was a renewal in November the 15th of 2022. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Oh, okay. Now, that was right after you got re-upped by Miss Willis, right after you took Miss Willis to Aruba. Isn't that right? On that November the 1st, 2022 trip to Aruba, and through November the 4th, 2022. Correct?
What does re-up mean?
Well, re-up means that you came back, your contract was up, and then on November the 15th, you and Miss Willis signed a new contract for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you were in taking her to the Aruba and on the cruises, and the resort there, did you discuss your re-upping, signing an extension on your contract?
No, sir. But you make an excellent point. I'm glad you pointed that out. So the trip to Aruba, the contract was not in existence then.
So you're saying that you were not
under contract.
In your contract, did you send any invoices in for work that you did after your first contract expired?
No, sir.
You didn't?
No, sir.
No. When that expired, that was it. So then you're saying that after the Aruba trip, you get re-upped with a new contract, correct?
I signed a new contract, yes.
Now, was there...
Yeah, you got re-upped after you broke her off that peen. But she say he impotent. Can we get some medical records on that? It don't look impotent.
Any modifications on that contract? Did you get an extension on the cap that you were limited on the first one? Were there any modifications at all, Mr. Willis?
No.
Excuse me. I've done that again. I apologize.
I've been called worse.
I'm sorry.
I've been called worse.
Now, were there any modifications on that?
Do you have the contract in front of you where you could?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think that
because I believe as the work gradually, as the time of the work gradually increased, the hourly cap would increase. In other words, starting out the investigation, it was impossible to anticipate the level of cooperation during the course of the investigation from some of the witnesses. So if you assume that there would be great cooperation with the witnesses in terms of interviewing and speaking and being voluntarily speaking with you, it doesn't take as much time. So after getting into it, realizing that most of the witnesses were not willing to speak or willing to turn over evidence or information, quickly you figure out that this is going to take a little more time than originally anticipated. And because of that, you have to compensate for those hours.
And that's why there was a compensation on your extension?
Yes, the caps.
A cap. Now, did Ms. Willis review your invoices with you when you would submit them?
Never.
Did anyone ever question whether or not you worked 24 hours in one day and billed 24 hours in one day?
I've never worked 24 hours in one day and billed 24 hours in one day.
Okay.
And I'm glad you asked me that question because I'd like the opportunity to talk about that.
I think you should go ahead.
So, if you look at that invoice where it says 24 hours in one day, it actually doesn't say one day. If you look at the top of the invoice, it says date completed. The date that's reflected on that invoice reflects the date that the work was completed. It doesn't say when it started. It just says this is the date that is completed. So if you go through the invoices, probably around the first 5 or 6, you'll see that that's the billing format. I would bill only after that particular task has been completed. That's why you see a 24-hour period with the one day there. I kind of wish some of the experts who had opined on that had called me and asked me the question. But there was never a billing of 24 hours in one day. Now, probably around the 6th or 7th invoice, you see the format changed. I started using a range so that it got less confusing, right?
I'm confused, so maybe you can correct it.
Okay.
In Exhibit 14, you've got down a specific day.
Mm-hmm.
Prepared cases for pretrial. November the 5th, 2021, 24 hours at $250 an hour, 6,000. Now, this wasn't about a range. It was about the work that you did on November the 5th, 2021.
No, Mr. Gillen, look at the top of the invoice. where it says date completed.
What I want you to do, Mr. Wade, is focus on the date that you have down there and tell the court what you billed for on November the 5th, 2021. I thought it was already in. I thought 14 was in.
Again, Mr. Gillum, it says completed date completed. The dates that you see here are the dates that work was completed. So on November the 5th, I completed the task of preparing the cases for pretrial. That's the date I completed it.
Just
Then
read,
it took me.
just read if you would. Then my question was, read out loud the entry for November the 5th, 2021, and how many hours you billed that day. Just do that for me if you would.
I can't do that.
Excuse me, I believe the witness is entitled to answer this question. That certainly wasn't the question that Mr.
All right, well, the question now is to read a certain entry. So.
Just read into the record, Mr. Wade, on November the 5th, 2021, how many hours did you bill the citizens of Fulton County for on that day? Just read it out, please.
I completed the task on November 5th, 2021. 24 hours was billed at $250.
Now, when you talked about your relationship with Ms. Willis and your testimony.
Ooh, that's a lot. Mm-mm.